The warm sun poured its golden light over Crestwood, a quaint town whose charm seemed to sparkle with each ray. The market square, the heart of the community, thrummed with activity. Families meandered along the cobblestone paths, enjoying the simple pleasure of togetherness. Children's laughter filled the air as they dashed between stalls, their carefree games of tag bringing an infectious energy to the scene. Vendors, with their faces flushed with enthusiasm, showcased an array of vibrant goods from fresh produce to handmade crafts. The town was alive with the sounds and smells of everyday joy, creating a setting that felt almost magical in its warmth and vibrancy. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Amidst this lively tableau sat Nia Thompson, a 21-year-old black college student, on a wooden bench by the park's fountain. The fountain's gentle cascade of water provided a soothing counterpoint to the bustling energy around her. Dressed in a navy blue blazer and matching slacks, Nia was a picture of professional poise and quiet optimism. She had just finished an important job interview for an internship at a prestigious law firm, a pivotal moment that could shape her future. As she waited for her father to arrive, she scrolled through her phone, trying to calm the nerves that danced in her chest. The serene beauty of the square contrasted sharply with the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions she felt, making the waiting period a poignant blend of hope and anxiety. Without warning, this calm was shattered by the approach of Officer Karen Huxley, a veteran policewoman whose stern expression seemed to darken the sunlit square. Huxley's nearly 2 decades on the force had left her with a hardened demeanor, and today her suspicion was immediately piqued when she spotted Nia sitting alone. With a sense of urgency and a lack of consideration for context, she marched toward Nia, her imposing presence cutting through the joyful atmosphere like a storm cloud. "Excuse me," Miss Officer Huxley's voice was sharp, her tone carrying an authority that seemed to disregard any sense of personal respect. "Can I see your bag? We received a report of a theft in this area, and you match the description." Nia's heart raced as she looked up, the weight of the officer's gaze pressing down on her. Her initial shock was quickly replaced by a surge of fear and confusion. "What?" "I haven't stolen anything," she replied, her voice a fragile whisper against the growing tension. Officer Huxley's eyes narrowed, her expression unyielding. "That's what they all say," she said with a dismissive edge, her impatience evident. "Just hand over the bag." The request felt like a harsh blow to Nia's already frazzled nerves. As she hesitated, her sense of helplessness deepened, and the once cheerful market square seemed to close in around her. The gathering crowd, now drawn by the commotion, watched with a mixture of curiosity and judgment. Nia could feel their eyes on her, the air growing thick with a palpable tension that made her heart pound in her chest. The sense of being scrutinized and judged, stripped of her privacy and dignity, was overwhelming. She felt her emotions boiling to the surface as Officer Huxley rifled through her belongings with a mechanical coldness, ignoring the vulnerability etched on Nia's face. The surreal quality of the situation hit Nia with full force. "Is this happening?" she wondered, the disbelief mingling with a rising sense of indignation. The once peaceful square had become a stage for an uncomfortable drama, and she was the unwilling center of it. Desperation and anxiety swirled within her as she pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling with each movement. When she dialed her father's number, her voice cracked with emotion, the fear she had been trying to keep at bay now spilling over. "Dad," she said, her voice barely steady, "I need you to come to the square. A police officer is accusing me of stealing." The words felt heavy and laden with the weight of her distress as she waited for his arrival, hoping for a resolution to the painful and disheartening encounter. As Officer Huxley continued her search, the murmur of the crowd grew more intense. Whispers filled the air, some people expressing outrage at what they perceived as clear racial bias, while others staunchly defended the officer's actions as part of her duty. Nia's hands trembled visibly, and she fought to keep her emotions in check, her eyes brimming with tears as she felt the crushing weight of the injustice unfolding around her. She was acutely aware of her innocence, yet it seemed irrelevant in this moment of public scrutiny. The feeling of being unjustly judged and targeted was overwhelming. Despite finding no evidence of wrongdoing, Officer Huxley did not offer any form of apology. Instead, she adopted a confrontational stance, crossing her arms and locking eyes with Nia with an unyielding gaze. "You're not off the hook yet," Huxley declared with a tone of finality. "I'm taking you to the station for further questioning." At that very moment, a commanding voice rang out from across the square, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. "What is going on here?" Nia turned to see her father, David Thompson, making his way toward them with an air of determination. David was not just an ordinary father, he was a distinguished civil rights lawyer whose name was synonymous with the fight against systemic injustice. His towering presence and formidable reputation in the community spoke volumes. But today he was not here in his professional capacity, he was here as a father, resolute in his defense of his daughter. With deliberate, confident strides, David approached Officer Huxley. The crowd instinctively parted to let him through, acknowledging the seriousness of the situation. Nia felt a surge of relief as she saw her father approaching, though the sting of the injustice she had endured remained sharp and persistent. David's eyes, filled with a mixture of concern and authority, locked onto Officer Huxley. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge of command. He glanced at Nia with a reassuring look before turning his steely gaze back to Huxley, who was visibly trying to maintain her composure. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Huxley, trying to assert her position, replied, "I received a report of a theft in this area, and your daughter matched the description we were given." David's brow furrowed as he questioned, "And what exactly was this description?" "A black woman sitting on a bench. Because from where I'm standing, that seems to be the only reason she's been singled out." Huxley's initial confidence wavered as she attempted to respond. The crowd had grown silent, their eyes flicking nervously between the officer and the imposing lawyer. Huxley stammered, "Sir, I was just following up on a report." "No," David cut her off, his voice resolute and unwavering. "What you were doing was making an assumption based solely on my daughter's race. If she were white, would you have treated her in this manner? Would you have searched her belongings in public without any credible evidence or probable cause?" The heat of the moment was palpable as Huxley's face reddened, and she shifted uncomfortably under David's penetrating stare. "I'm not here to argue with you, sir," she said, her voice faltering. "We're taking her in for questioning." David's unwavering gaze and authoritative stance left no room for further debate, and the weight of the moment hung heavily in the air. "No, you're not," David said firmly, stepping in front of Nia with an air of unwavering protectiveness. His voice carried the weight of authority and determination. "You've already violated her rights by publicly searching her without any valid cause or evidence. Now, unless you can present concrete proof directly linking my daughter to this alleged theft, you have no grounds to detain her further. You are required to release her immediately and issue a formal apology." The murmurs within the crowd had ceased, replaced by an intense silence. Every onlooker was now riveted, their eyes fixed on the unfolding confrontation with bated breath. Some individuals in the crowd nodded in agreement with David's staunch defense, their faces reflecting approval. Others appeared conflicted, their expressions showing uncertainty as they grappled with the disconcerting nature of the situation. Officer Huxley, realizing that she was losing control of the narrative and facing mounting scrutiny, fell silent momentarily. Her previously confident demeanor was unraveling under the pressure of David's resolute demand for justice. It had become glaringly evident to everyone present that she had no evidence to substantiate her claims. David leaned in slightly, lowering his voice but ensuring it was still audible to the assembled crowd. "Officer, I am well versed in my rights and the law. What has transpired here today is not only morally wrong but also illegal. My daughter is innocent and does not deserve the treatment she has received. I will not allow this to go unchallenged." Huxley hesitated, her hands nervously fidgeting as she weighed her options under the intense scrutiny of the crowd. Their collective gaze seemed to pierce through her, amplifying the pressure to rectify the situation. "Sir, I might have made an error in judgment," she stammered, her voice faltering for the first time since her arrival on the scene. David's resolve did not waver. "A mistake. That's what you refer to this as. You've publicly embarrassed my daughter, casting her as a suspect in front of everyone, and now you label it as a mere mistake." The officer, visibly distressed and shaken, glanced around at the crowd and the crack at David. She was acutely aware that she had crossed a significant line, yet admitting her fault felt like an admission of defeat. Still, the situation had escalated beyond her control, and she could no longer deny the reality of her overreach. "I'm sorry," Huxley finally admitted, her voice barely a whisper, trembling with the weight of her regret. David's expression remained resolute and stern. "Apologies alone cannot undo the harm you've caused. I expect a formal written apology and a thorough review of your conduct. This matter extends beyond my daughter. It concerns the systemic issues that permit such biases to persist. You will be held accountable for your actions." Nia stood beside her father, her hands trembling with a mix of relief and emotion, yet a profound sense of pride swelled within her. Her father's courage wasn't just a defense of her dignity, it was a stand against every instance of wrongful accusation and systemic injustice. As the crowd began to disperse, the gravity of the moment lingered in the air. This confrontation was more than a mere dispute, it was a significant challenge to the status quo, and the resolution was far from complete. As the crowd gradually dispersed, the oppressive weight of the incident lingered in the air, casting a heavy shadow over the scene. Nia remained by her father's side, visibly shaken, yet finding solace in his steadfast support. Officer Huxley walked away from the scene, her face a mask of embarrassment and discomfort. The situation, however, was far from resolved, leaving an uneasy tension that hung in the atmosphere. David, his gaze filled with concern and tenderness, turned to Nia, his eyes softening as he took in the distress etched on his daughter's face. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" David inquired, his voice gentle and filled with concern. Nia nodded, though her voice trembled with the aftershocks of the experience. "I can't believe this happened. I was just sitting there minding my own business, and suddenly I'm being treated like a criminal in front of everyone." David's hand found its way to her shoulder, offering a reassuring squeeze. "I know, and it's not right. But I promise you we're going to ensure that this never happens to you or anyone else again." As they made their way home, Nia's mind was a whirlpool of conflicting emotions. While she had always been aware of the existence of racial profiling, experiencing it firsthand was a profoundly different and unsettling reality. She felt a deep sense of violation and anger, yet also a surge of empowerment fueled by her father's fierce and unwavering defense. This moment, though painful, was not the end, it was the beginning of a significant and transformative journey. That evening, David, with a resolute determination, reached out to his legal team. As a seasoned civil rights lawyer, he was well-versed in navigating the complexities of the legal system. But this time, the fight was deeply personal. He was not merely advocating for justice in the abstract, he was fighting for his daughter's dignity and rights. In the days that followed, news of the incident began to ripple through Crestwood. Social media platforms erupted with posts and videos capturing the confrontation, and it wasn't long before local news stations picked up the story, amplifying the debate. The community was divided. While some defended Officer Huxley, the majority expressed condemnation for her actions and demanded accountability. At home, Nia tried to immerse herself in her studies and prepare for the internship she had recently interviewed for. However, the relentless public scrutiny made it increasingly challenging to focus. She was bombarded with messages of support from friends and strangers alike, yet also faced harsh criticism from those who accused her of playing the race card. The world around her seemed fragmented, and she found herself at the center of a storm she had never anticipated or desired. One afternoon, as Nia scrolled through the comments on social media, her phone buzzed with a new notification. It was a text from her best friend, Layla. "You okay?" "I've been reading the comments. People are so cruel, but I'm incredibly proud of you for standing up." Nia exhaled deeply and typed a response. "Thanks. It's just a lot to handle. I didn't ask for this kind of attention." Layla replied swiftly, "I understand, but maybe this is an opportunity. People are talking about it, and that's the first step toward change. Your dad's a fighter, he's got your back, and so do we." Nia felt a flicker of relief as she listened to Layla's comforting words, a small smile easing the tension in her shoulders. Layla's perspective resonated deeply with her. The enormity of the situation was undeniable, and although Nia had hoped to withdraw from the limelight, she understood now that the struggle for justice extended beyond her personal experience. It had become a larger cause, one that was intertwined with her father's fight, and one she had to embrace as her own. The incident had occurred, leaving a deep scar, but no apology had been forthcoming. The pursuit of justice quickly became more than a mere personal grievance. It transformed into a legal battle with broader implications. David, Nia's father, along with a dedicated team of civil rights attorneys, began preparing to file a lawsuit against the Crestwood Police Department. Their allegations were grave racial profiling and a violation of Nia's constitutional rights. The legal team was ready to face the courtroom with determination, fully aware that their path would be fraught with challenges. They braced themselves for a fight that promised to be long and arduous, but their commitment to seeking justice for Nia fueled their resolve. In the face of mounting pressure from the media and the public, the Crestwood Police Department launched an internal investigation into Officer Huxley's conduct. Despite this response, David and his team were under no illusions. They had witnessed too many instances where such internal probes yielded little more than superficial results. Officers either exonerated or lightly reprimanded. While systemic issues remained unaddressed, the team knew that meaningful change was rare, and the internal investigation was unlikely to bring about the justice they sought. As the lawsuit gained momentum, Nia emerged as a powerful symbol of resilience and courage. Invitations to speak at rallies and community meetings began to flow in, and she found herself sharing her story with a wider audience. Initially, the spotlight felt overwhelming, and Nia grappled with discomfort at being thrust into the public eye. Yet, as she spoke to diverse groups of people, her discomfort began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of purpose. Nia came to realize that her voice was making a significant impact, resonating with others who had faced similar injustices. Her role in advocating for an end to racial profiling and raising awareness about systemic issues was more than just personal redemption. It was a beacon of hope and change. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know. Thank you for your valuable time. One evening, after delivering a particularly heartfelt speech at a town hall meeting, Nia found herself sitting at the kitchen table with her father. The weight of the day's events hung heavy in the air, and she looked at him, seeking solace and understanding. "Dad, do you ever get tired of fighting?" she asked, her voice tinged with exhaustion and reflection. David looked at his daughter with a gentle smile, his eyes reflecting both pride and weariness. "All the time, sweetheart," he admitted, his voice soft but resolute. "But the thing is, if we don't fight, nothing changes. Every battle we take on, every injustice we stand up against, moves us closer to a better world. It's hard and it's exhausting, but it's worth it." Nia nodded, absorbing the gravity of her father's words. The emotional weight of the fight was palpable, yet his encouragement strengthened her resolve. "I want to keep fighting," she said quietly, her determination clear, "not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been in my shoes." David reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand, his touch both comforting and affirming. "And you will," he assured her, his voice filled with unwavering belief. "You're stronger than you know, Nia." The warmth of his support enveloped her, reinforcing her commitment to the cause and reminding her of the profound strength that lay within her. The legal showdown was nothing short of dramatic. As the court date approached, the tension grew palpable. The Crestwood Police Department had assembled a formidable legal team, committed to defending Officer Huxley's actions. They argued vigorously that her conduct had adhered strictly to departmental guidelines and insisted that the incident was devoid of racial bias. Their defense hinged on the tenuous claim that Nia matched a description provided in a report about a petty theft in the vicinity. However, David and his legal team were more than prepared for the battle ahead. Equipped with compelling witness testimonies, video footage captured by bystanders, and a meticulously constructed case highlighting racial bias, they were ready to challenge the status quo. The courtroom on the first day of the trial was filled, a testament to the community's support for Nia. The media presence was substantial, underscoring the fact that the case had transcended individual concerns and become a broader discussion on systemic racism within law enforcement. As the trial commenced, David delivered an impassioned opening statement that resonated with the jury. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he began, his voice steady and resolute. "What happened to Nia Anderson is not an isolated incident. It is a stark manifestation of a system that perpetuates racial profiling unchecked. Officer Huxley did not see a teenage girl waiting for her father. She saw a potential threat purely based on Nia's skin color. This is the harsh reality that countless people of color endure daily. Today, we are asking you to hold the Crestwood Police Department accountable for this egregious injustice." In response, the defense lawyer sought to portray Officer Huxley as a diligent officer simply performing her duties. They presented footage from Huxley's body camera, where she was heard asserting that she was merely adhering to protocol. Yet when this footage was juxtaposed with bystander videos, it painted a different picture entirely, one of a young girl subjected to unwarranted public humiliation rooted in nothing more than baseless suspicion. As the trial continued, Nia took the stand. Her hands trembled slightly as she swore the oath, but her voice held a determined clarity as she began to recount her experience. "I was just sitting there waiting for my dad," she said, her voice unwavering. "I wasn't doing anything wrong. But when Officer Huxley approached me, it felt like she had already made up her mind about my guilt before she even spoke to me. All she saw was a black girl, and that was enough for her." Nia's testimony struck a chord with the jury and the public alike, providing a poignant and personal glimpse into the ordeal she had endured. It was clear that the trial had become a battleground for a broader conversation about racial equity and justice, with Nia's courage serving as a powerful catalyst for change. The jury listened intently as Nia took the stand to recount her experience, her voice steady but tinged with the emotional weight of reliving a traumatic moment. From the front row, her father David observed with a complex mix of pride and anguish. He could see the strain on Nia's face, the bravery it took for her to share her story, and he understood how critical her testimony was to the case. It was a moment of immense personal sacrifice for Nia, but also a pivotal moment in their fight for justice. Throughout the trial, a chorus of voices began to rise from the community. Other victims of racial profiling came forward, bravely sharing their harrowing encounters. They described instances of being stopped, questioned, or subjected to searches by police officers solely based on the color of their skin. Their testimonies painted a vivid picture of a systemic problem, reinforcing the struggles that Nia and her father were courageously exposing. Each story added weight to their case, creating a powerful narrative of discrimination that resonated deeply with the jury and the audience. However, the defense was relentless in its efforts to counter the accusations. They presented police experts who testified that Officer Huxley had adhered to department protocols and argued that Nia's behavior had been sufficiently suspicious to warrant the search. The defense attempted to undermine Nia's credibility, insinuating that she was either exaggerating or misunderstanding the situation. David was prepared for this line of attack. During his cross-examination of Officer Huxley, he methodically challenged the rationale behind the search. "Officer Huxley, when you approached Nia, did you ask her any questions before demanding to search her bag?" David inquired, his tone deliberate and probing. "No, I didn't," Officer Huxley responded with a noticeable stiffness in her voice. "And why was that?" David pressed. "She matched the description of a suspect," Huxley replied. "And what was that description exactly?" David asked, his calm demeanor belying the intensity of his questioning. "A black female in her teens wearing a jacket," Officer Huxley stated. David's eyebrows arched in disbelief. So the only details that matched the description were that she was black and wearing a jacket. Were there any other distinguishing features? Officer Huxley fidgeted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. "No, sir." Turning to the jury, David made his case with pointed clarity. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my daughter was targeted not due to any specific behavior or credible evidence, but because she fit a vague and insufficient description of black girl in a jacket. This is not policing, this is racial profiling." As the trial progressed, it became increasingly apparent that Officer Huxley's actions were symptomatic of a broader issue within the Crestwood Police Department. David introduced compelling evidence demonstrating that black and brown residents in Crestwood were disproportionately subjected to stops and searches by the police, despite constituting a small fraction of the town's population. This data was both striking and damaging, reinforcing the notion that Nia's experience was part of a systemic pattern rather than an isolated incident. As the trial neared its conclusion, the tension in the courtroom reached a fever pitch. The defense made one final attempt to portray Officer Huxley as a well-meaning officer who found herself in an unfortunate situation, but their argument struggled to maintain credibility. David's closing statement was fervent and uncompromising. "This case is not merely about my daughter, Nia. It represents the countless young black men and women who have been unfairly targeted simply because of their skin color. This is a call for accountability within our police forces and a demand for justice not just for Nia, but for every individual who has ever been the victim of racial profiling and discrimination." With the closing arguments complete, the jury was sent to deliberate. The courtroom was filled with a palpable sense of anticipation as the community waited anxiously for a verdict. Nia sat beside her father, her hands tightly gripping the edge of her chair, her heart racing with a mix of hope and apprehension. Finally, the jury returned, and the room fell into a profound silence as the judge prepared to read the verdict. In the matter of Anderson versus the Crestwood Police Department, the judge began, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Officer Huxley, liable for racial profiling in violation of constitutional rights." The words hung in the air, heavy with significance, marking a moment of profound accountability and a hard-fought victory for Nia and her father. Nia gasped, her breath catching as tears welled up in her eyes, brimming with a mix of disbelief and relief. She turned to her father, who was already moving toward her with open arms. As he pulled her into a tight embrace, the weight of their shared ordeal seemed to lift, if only slightly. The courtroom, which had been thick with tension just moments before, erupted into applause from Nia's supporters. If you are still watching this video and find these stories useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Their cheers filled the space with an electrifying energy, a stark contrast to the cold, indifferent expression on Officer Huxley's face. Huxley sat with her gaze fixed forward, her posture rigid as the reality of her career being upended settled in. The verdict was not just a personal triumph for Nia, it marked a significant turning point for the entire community. It was a powerful declaration that racial profiling would no longer be tolerated, setting a groundbreaking precedent for future cases. Nia's bravery in standing up against injustice sparked a wave of change, and as she stood with her father on the courthouse steps, she felt a profound sense of both relief and pride. In the weeks that followed, Nia's case became a national sensation. The story spread rapidly through news channels, social media, and public discourse. People from all over the country reached out to offer their support, sharing messages of encouragement and solidarity. Activists, civil rights organizations, and even high-profile celebrities publicly praised Nia for her courage in confronting and exposing the injustice she faced. This outpouring of support was a testament to the impact of her stand. For Nia, however, the most significant achievement was regaining control over her narrative. She had turned a deeply personal and painful experience into a powerful platform for change. With the settlement money from the lawsuit, Nia and her father took decisive action. They established the Anderson Foundation for Justice, a nonprofit organization committed to addressing and combating racial profiling and advocating for comprehensive police reform. The foundation quickly became a beacon of hope and a catalyst for change. They initiated a range of programs designed to educate and empower communities, including workshops on racial justice, seminars on legal rights, and speaking engagements at schools and community centers. Their advocacy extended to lobbying for policy changes at local, state, and national levels, aiming to create systemic reforms that would prevent future injustices. Nia's transformation was remarkable. Once a shy and reserved individual, she now stood confidently in front of crowds, sharing her story and using her platform to advocate for change. Her experience had forged a new sense of purpose and resilience within her. She became a vocal and passionate advocate for civil rights, her voice a powerful force for hope and determination. Her journey from victim to activist illustrated the strength of her character and her commitment to making a difference. Several months later, Nia took the stage at a major rally, addressing a sea of faces gathered in support of the cause. The crowd was vibrant and engaged, a testament to the growing movement for justice. Among the sea of supporters, Nia spotted Layla, her best friend, cheering her on with a supportive smile. Nia's heart swelled with gratitude and determination as she prepared to speak. Standing confidently, Nia addressed the audience with a steady and resolute voice. "When I was racially profiled, I felt a profound sense of powerlessness," she began, her words resonating with the gravity of her experience. "But through this journey, I've learned that our true power doesn't come from how others perceive us. It comes from how we perceive ourselves and how we choose to act with the opportunities we're given. We can't change what's happened in the past, but we can and must fight for a better future. And that's exactly what we're here to do." The crowd's response was overwhelming. The applause was not just a show of support, but a powerful affirmation of the shared commitment to justice and change. Nia felt a surge of hope and resolve as the sound washed over her. This was not the end of the fight, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. The journey toward justice and equality was ongoing, and Nia was ready to lead the charge with unwavering determination and a heart full of hope. As we wrap up this powerful narrative, we hope it has stirred your heart and mind. What have you learned from this story? Share with us in the comments below one lesson that resonates with you and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your engagement helps us continue sharing these important messages.